This is CBN NewsWatch.
And thank you so much for joining us this Thursday, January 14th. I'm Ephraim Graham. Ahead today, congressional Democrats leading the push to impeach President Donald Trump for a second time, joined by 10 Republicans, while others argue the move will only further divide the country. One bright spot for Republicans, a record number of women winning races for Congress in last year's elections. We'll take a look at how they did it. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu taking a bold action. But will it anger the new administration of Joe Biden? And expressions of gratitude, letters of thanks to the Capitol Hill police who protected those under assault during the deadly riot in Washington last week. All those stories and more are ahead in today's edition of CBN News Watch. We begin this half hour with President Trump becoming the first president to be impeached twice by the House of Representatives. The Democratic majority was joined by 10 Republicans, less than 5% of the total number of GOP members in the House. Abigail Robertson brings us more on why Democrats feel impeachment is necessary, even though the president has just days remaining in office.
For lawmakers trying to impeach Trump days before he leaves the White House, the goal is not just to remove him from office, but to stop him from ever becoming president again.
He must go. He is a clear and present danger to the nation that we all love.
The single article of impeachment charges President Trump with engaging in high crimes and misdemeanors by inciting violence against the government of the United States.
They were domestic terrorists, and justice must prevail. But they did not appear out of a vacuum. They were sent here by the president with words such as a cry to fight like hell.
The vote took place with National Guard troops protecting the Capitol and the House chamber itself. 10 Republicans joined every House Democrat voting in favor of impeachment, while the majority of House Republicans argued this.
A vote to impeach would further divide this nation. A vote to impeach will further fan the flames of partisan division.
House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy believes the president should be censured for his role in the Capitol attack, not impeached.
The president bears responsibility for Wednesday's attack on Congress by mob rioters. He should have immediately denounced the mob when he saw what was unfolding.
Republican Congresswoman Nancy Mace says both sides share in the blame for the unrest around the country.
Republicans and Democrats need to acknowledge this is not the first day of violence we've seen. We've seen violence across our country for the last 9 months. And we need to recognize, number one, that our words have consequences, that there is violence on both sides of the aisle. We've contributed to it. We need to take responsibility for our words and our actions. We need to acknowledge there is a problem, take responsibility for it, and stop being part of the problem and start being part of the solution.
Following the historic vote on impeachment, Trump called for no violence, vandalism, or lawbreaking as he prepares to leave office.
Now I am asking everyone who has ever believed in our agenda to be thinking of ways to ease tensions, calm tempers, and help to promote peace in our country.
And President-elect Joe Biden released a statement saying he hopes that Senate leadership will find a way to deal with their constitutional responsibilities on impeachment while also working on the other urgent business. Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell will not reconvene the Senate until January 19th, ensuring a Senate impeachment trial would not begin until the first weeks of Biden's presidency. Reporting from Capitol Hill, Abigail Robertson, CBN News.
Washington, D.C. will look more like a war zone in the days ahead. 20,000 National Guard troops will be stationed there for extra protection during President-elect Joe Biden's inauguration next Wednesday. CBN national security correspondent Eric Phillips brings us that story.
Brad Bowman with the Foundation for Defense of Democracies says this is a moment of truth, and there really is no gray area, he says. Either Americans are on the side of the Constitution or they're not. And he adds, however, this line of division may lead us into worse territory than we've already seen. Security in the nation's capital grows tighter by the day. National Guard troops in and around the U.S. Capitol literally around the clock, resting when they can, as shown in this picture taken by a CBN News photographer. Now word that troops guarding the Capitol building will be armed beyond the protective gear they've been carrying. That step concerns national security strategist Brad Bowman.
I do worry about violence. I absolutely do. I do worry about lethal force in our nation's capital in the hands of National Guardsmen, but they are trained for this. The last thing we would want, right, I would think, is to put those men and women in uniform between our Constitution and insurrectionists and not give them the tools they need to fulfill their mission and protect themselves.
The Secret Service is organizing the massive effort to protect the city now and prepare for inauguration security. That will include some 20,000 National Guard troops, plus thousands of police and tactical officers. A tight net being established around downtown D.C.
Individuals entering the perimeter may be subject to screening and asked to describe their essential business, so be prepared to do that.
Security also tightening across the country, given credible reports of threats and protests against state houses in all 50 states that could begin this weekend. Back in the nation's capital, intelligence has revealed threats of execution against lawmakers approving the impeachment of President Trump. Bowman says an FDD colleague is raising a major red flag.
He's saying just in the last few days that what he's seen in the United States looks very much like a pre-insurgency dynamics that he's observed in countries like Iraq and Afghanistan. Be very, very careful what you're doing, because it could get much, much worse.
Bowman points to Tuesday's memo from the Joint Chiefs of Staff to the U.S. military, calling January 6th a, quote, direct assault on the U.S. Congress, and reminding them of their oath to support and defend the Constitution.
Is one of the most important documents in years that I think people will be reading decades or maybe 100 years from now.
Wednesday afternoon, President Trump released a written statement saying there must be, quote, no violence, no lawbreaking, and no vandalism of any kind. He also called on all Americans to do their part to ease tensions and calm tempers. Eric Phillips, CBN News.
Twitter CEO Jack Dorsey is defending his company's ban of President Donald Trump. Dorsey tweeted he did not celebrate the move, but added, I believe this was the right decision for Twitter because of what harm the president's tweets might cause. And he admitted the move has set a dangerous precedent. But critics say that Twitter has not removed many violent posts like #AssassinAteTrump and similar messages. A global team of researchers arrived in Wuhan, China today, where the coronavirus pandemic was first detected. The team, sent by the World Health Organization, came to carry out a politically sensitive investigation into the origins of the virus, amid uncertainty about whether Beijing might try to prevent embarrassing discoveries. China says it will support the WHO team. China's Communist Party, which has been hurt by complaints it let the virus spread, says the disease came from other countries, possibly imported on seafood. But scientists reject that. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has made a bold move that could alienate President-elect Joe Biden. As Middle East Bureau Chief Chris Mitchell reports, the potential consequences highlight the coming changes in U.S.-Israeli relations.
The move in question, Prime Minister Netanyahu's authorization to build hundreds of housing units in Judea and Samaria.
It's important to understand that now we are entering a more difficult time with President Biden, who will soon be coming into office. So Netanyahu is trying to take advantage of the moment before Biden takes office to create a few facts on the ground.
Netanyahu has his own political concerns as well, with Israel facing another election in March.
One way of getting support from the right-wing voters is by announcing there's going to be new building in Judea and Samaria.
Reclaimed during the 1967 Six-Day War, Israel considers Judea and Samaria its biblical heartland, promised to the Jewish people by God. Palestinians in much of the world call it the West Bank, view it as occupied territory, and want to see it become part of a Palestinian state. David Rubin, former Shiloh mayor and author of Trump and the Jews, said Trump has been very good for Israel.
President Trump has been the best president in history, in the history of United States-Israel relations.
Among his accomplishments are recognition of Jerusalem as Israel's capital and moving the U.S. Embassy to Jerusalem.
That's a fait accompli. Biden's not going to go back on that. Then the recognition that the Jewish communities in Judea and Samaria are not illegal, which is a big change from what Obama, Bush, Clinton, what they all were saying before that.
Palestinians were angered by many things Trump did, including his Jerusalem moves, defunding of the UN body responsible for Palestinian refugees, and the Abraham Accords between Israel and 4 Arab states. While Biden is considered to be a friend of Israel, he is also expected to be more sympathetic toward the Palestinians. Meanwhile, the foreign ministers of Germany, France, and Jordan met in Egypt. They released a statement urging the resumption of credible negotiations between Israel and the Palestinians and reaffirmed their support for a 2-state solution. So for Israel, the heat is on. Some fear the favor Israel had with Washington during the last 4 years is likely to be replaced by pressure the Jewish state felt before Trump took office. Chris Mitchell, CBN News, Jerusalem.
Coming up, a major bright spot for Republicans this year, a record number of new women entering Congress. We're going to take a look at how they made it happen when we come back.
Introducing the CBN Bible from CBN.com. Now, an easier way to study the Bible and grow in your faith. Highlight your favorite verse. Read separate versions at a glance. Click and read a commentary. Or cross-reference your favorite verse using the Strong's Concordance. All the right tools to study the Bible, all in one place. The CBN Bible, available at cbn.com/Bible or the iTunes App Store.
This is CBN NewsWatch.
Thanks for joining us.
Watch breaking news, exclusive stories and programs, credible news reporting.
We show you what's happening in the world and how you can pray about it.
This is CBN NewsWatch, because truth matters. Weekdays at 5 on the CBN News Channel.
Superbook fans, here's something else you'll love. It's the new Superbook Bible app. It's packed with games, activities, and Superbook episodes that you can watch for free. Oh no! There's trivia, a fun daily devotional, and answers to your Bible questions. Plus, an easy-to-understand Bible the whole family will enjoy. You can even create your own Superbook character. Ta-da! Whoa!
The Millsburg Falls man coming.
Sorry, pardon me. Sorry, excuse me. Ouch!
Are you getting this?
Earn super points to win daily prizes too, and so much more. Time to get back to my adventures. See you soon. It's the new Superbook Bible app. Free downloads on iTunes, Google Play, and Amazon.
Millions of women across the country sent a message to Washington in the November election, sending a record number of Republican women to the House. So exactly how did the GOP pull off these big wins? Our Jennifer Wishon has a look.
Of the 14 seats Republicans flipped in the House, 10 were won by women, mostly in urban and suburban parts of the country. As Congresswoman Susan Brooks prepares to retire from Congress, she leaves a legacy after successfully recruiting and helping elect a new slate of conservative women to Congress.
More and more conservative women wanted to raise their hand and say, groups like AOC and the Squad do not represent my views. I need to step up and to put my conservative views and how I have contributed to my community forward. I need to make sure that the electorate has another choice.
After the 2018 midterms led to huge Republican losses, party leaders vowed to stop the gravitation of women to the Democratic Party. Leaders like Kevin McCarthy and Kathy McMorris Rodgers directed more money to conservative women candidates and made electing them a priority. A record 228 women ran, with 94 winning their primaries.
The women, I think, just had messages that resonated, and they knew their districts.
Republican strategists say this will help change the reputation of the GOP being the party of old white men.
The Republican Party is diverse, and I think that you're starting to see that reflected in the candidate recruitment.
So what can we expect in the 2022 midterms?
I would much rather be Leader McCarthy than Speaker Pelosi or whoever comes behind her.
That's because after the 2010 census, Republican majorities in state houses across the country dominated the drawing of congressional districts. And there are still a number of districts Trump won in 2016 that haven't flipped yet. Add that to the great migration from liberal strongholds as more and more Americans leave states like New York and California. Those states will continue to lose congressional seats that could go to Republican strongholds. For now, Democrats have seen their House majority diminished. And once again, Best says the elites got it wrong.
I think the conventional wisdom in Washington, D.C. and New York City was that President Trump was so unpopular, he was going to lose by a wide margin, and he was going to tank Republicans in the process, and that simply didn't occur.
Meanwhile, Congresswoman Brooks is retiring and will fittingly be replaced by a Republican woman who happened to beat another woman running as a Democrat. Jennifer Wishon, CBN News.
Still ahead, Islamic persecution still on the rise in some countries. We're going to hear what's happening to these believers in foreign lands right after this.
When I came to Regent University, it's like the world opened up. I felt like I needed to advance my career and go back to school. Regent was a perfect fit for me. The Regent professors are world class. You are equipped. The focus of the faculty is on each individual student, whether it's online or in person. You become a part of Regent's family. You carry with you not just the content and the knowledge, but the confidence to understand that we can be significant in the world.
Regent University. Follow your path.
Nigerian Christians
in Iran are routinely arrested.
Happily, Christians continue to suffer.
In times of trial and affliction, you need to know the truth.
One of the fastest growing Christian populations in the world.
Join Wendy Griffith and George Thomas for Christian World News.
Young people are the ones who are open to the gospel.
Powerful stories of suffering and hope that affect all Christians. Watch Christian World News, Saturday at 5 p.m. Get Protect Your Sleep and discover how to improve the quality of your life. A free DVD or booklet from the Christian Broadcasting Network.
If you're not a great sleeper, you can do things to make yourself a great sleeper. If you're already a pretty good sleeper, you can enhance your sleep and be even better.
5 leading experts help remove the obstacles between you and restorative sleep.
When you don't get a restful night's sleep, you wake up with an accumulation of stress.
Call 1-800-700-7000 or go to CBN.com to get your free DVD or booklet today.
Everything you do better with a good night's sleep.
You'll discover how food affects your sleep, how to put insomnia to rest, explore effective remedies for sleep apnea, and much more in Protect Your Sleep. Wake up to your best life and get Protect Your Sleep today. Call 1-800-700-7000 or go to CBN.com to get your free DVD or booklet.
Secretary of State Mike Pompeo is expressing concern for human rights and religious freedom during his final days. Pompeo recently tweeted 80% of the world's population lives in a religiously restrictive environment. On this week's episode of The Global Lane, Voice of the Martyrs radio host Todd Nettleton discusses some countries of concern in 2021, including 3 African nations where Islamic persecution of Christians is on the rise.
I think persecution has increased and certainly in the last 20 years that I've been working at Voice of the Martyrs, And that's kind of the bad side of the coin. The good side of the coin is part of the reason the persecution has increased is because the church in places like China and North Korea and Africa is growing. So there are more new Christians to potentially be targets of persecution.
Okay, let's look at some specific countries then. This year, Secretary of State Mike Pompeo added Nigeria to the list of countries of particular concern. So why do you think Pompeo did that? What's happening in Nigeria?
Well, I think what we have seen in Nigeria over the last several years is the growth of Boko Haram, the number of attacks, the severity of the attacks, and I think really the unwillingness or the inability of the Nigerian government to put a stop to it, to protect Christian Nigerian citizens, particularly in the northern part of the country. I think, the State Department has been watching that for a number of years. They've commented about Boko Haram, and now they're saying, listen, this is a country, as a country, Christians and religious minorities are not safe there. That's why they've designated a country of particular concern. This year, there are 2 new countries in our global prayer guide. They are Burkina Faso and Cameroon, both in Africa. In the case of Cameroon, right next door to Nigeria, a lot of the persecution we see is Boko Haram coming across the border into Cameroon and persecuting Christians there. But it's really part of a pattern of radical Islam growing on the continent of Africa and affecting our Christian brothers and sisters, affecting their safety, affecting how they live, affecting how they minister. That's why there are 2 new countries in the Global Prayer Guide, and both of them are on the continent of Africa.
And North Korea always seems to top most lists as worst persecutor. Has the plight of Christians there improved at all since President Trump reached out to Kim Jong-un, or are we seeing more of the same?
There really hasn't been a significant change in how Christians in North Korea are treated. And the thing that people have to understand is that the Kim regime is built as a religion. The members of the Kim family are considered to be deities. Children are taught before they have a meal to say, thank you, Father Kim Il-sung, for our food. So they cannot allow Christianity to spread. They cannot allow it to grow freely in North Korea because Christianity undermines the government. It undermines the regime. If Jesus is Lord, then Kim Jong-un is not Lord. And so that's why the government simply cannot let Christianity spread. That's why we see the intense persecution of Christians in North Korea.
And of course, in neighboring China, many Christians there say they're suffering the worst persecution against them since Chairman Mao's Cultural Revolution. So what's the latest in China?
What we say in 2021 is that everywhere in China, there is intense persecution of Christians. There is intense efforts to control the church, to bring the church under Communist Party control. It's everywhere in China, and it is affecting every Christian in the country.
Share your thoughts about persecution coming to the USA.
Well, we just had a conversation on Voice of the Martyrs Radio with our president, Cole Richards, and one of the things he talked about is the fact that if you're going to live a boldly biblical Christian life in the United States, you are going to pay a price. And maybe it will be sort of subtle. Maybe it will be friends that move away from you. Maybe it will be more direct. Maybe it will affect your employment. Maybe it will affect your opportunities for promotions or advancement in your job. But, that is exactly what Christ promised. Christ said, the world hates me. If you follow me, the world will hate you too. We haven't, as American Christians, really experienced that very much. That may be changing, and we may be seeing the day where it really does cost someone to follow Jesus Christ boldly, even right here in the United States.
And quickly, Todd, as this administration departs, many religious freedom advocates are offering praise for the efforts of Mike Pompeo, Sam Brownback, Vice President Mike Pence, and others who made religious freedom a priority. So your thoughts on the efforts now? What do you think the future holds with Joe Biden in the White House?
Well, it's hard to know, how the new administration will handle this, but I do hope that religious freedom will be a priority for them, both here in the United States as well as around the world, promoting religious freedom, promoting the idea that even as a member of a minority religious group like Christians in some Muslim nations, you deserve protection. You deserve the freedom to worship as you see fit. Obviously, it's something that our founding fathers found very important as they set up our country. I hope the Biden administration will continue to make it an important part of our foreign policy going forward.
For a look at more important trends in the news, be sure to check out the Global Lane this evening at 8:30 Eastern. You can find that on the CBN News Channel. Coming up, a heartfelt show of appreciation in Washington for the Capitol Hill Police for keeping people safe during last week's violence. We're going to bring you that story when we come back.
Christians around the world are standing with the Israelis. But why? In CBN's free magazine, Friends of Israel, you'll discover why Christians are supporting the Jewish state, how Israel is fulfilling prophecy as a light to the nations, and ways you can pray for the people of Israel. Israel needs the support of friends like you. Call now or go to CBN.com to get your free copy of Friends of Israel.
Heavenly Father, we do thank you for the work of your Spirit, Lord God, with this movement of getting the Bible,
yes,
Lord, into public schools.
Watch The Prayer Link, Tuesday nights at 6:30.
Get the top political news and analysis from Washington on Faith Nation, tonight at 6 Eastern, only on the CBN News Channel.
We're seeing signs of support at the United States Capitol following last week's deadly riot, and it comes in an unlikely place, the walls of the basement tunnels that weave their way through the House and Senate complex. The Capitol Police receiving heartfelt letters of support following the violence last Wednesday. The notes are coming from staffers as well as lawmakers, many thanking the Capitol Police for working to keep them safe from the rioters who forced their way into the Hill offices and both House and Senate chambers. Before we say goodbye, it's time for your Thursday Thankful, and today I want to leave you with this prayer of gratitude. God, I thank you for the assurance that you are good, and my good is the center of your concern. You have great plans for me, and you will work out great plans through me to reach the world for you. With that prayer, I encourage you to make today a thankful Thursday and be sure to have yourself a wonderful rest of the week, and do that on purpose. Well, that will do it for this edition of CBN NewsWatch. I want to remind you, you can always find more of our programs on the CBN News Channel. You can find them there at any time. You can also find them online at cbnnews.com. We would love to know what you think about the stories you've seen here today or any day. You can email us, the address right there at the bottom of your screen. It's newswatch@cbn.com. And of course, you can always reach out and touch us on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram. Certainly hope you'll join us again right here next time. Make this a thankful Thursday. We'll see you right back here, same time tomorrow. Goodbye and God bless.